Hello, welcome to That Florida Feeling. I'm your guest host, Keb Pound from the Stupid History Minute podcast. Hey, just want to take a minute. I really appreciate Jody for handing me the mic on this podcast. I'm already a weekly listener of, and for letting me prove that I can carry on about history for a bit longer than just a minute. Now, I don't know if I've said this before, but I've lived in Florida basically my entire life. Let me say something. There are things that you expect to see here. There are hurricanes. There are alligators in your swimming pool. There are, honest to God, iguanas falling out of trees. But snow? Not one of them. Snow in Jacksonville is like spotting Bigfoot at a Waffle House. It doesn't really happen often, but if it did, no one would shut up about it. Today, I want to take you guys back to December 23rd, 1989, the day it actually snowed in Jacksonville, Florida. No flurries, no frost, real stick-to-the-ground, build-a-snowman snow. It was the biggest snow event in Jacksonville since record-keeping began, and if you were here, you never forget it. If you weren't, well, buckle up because this one gets weird in the most Florida way possible. Now let's start with the setup. Late December 1989. It was Christmas time. Jacksonville was in a holiday mood. Palm trees wrapped with lights, fake snow in the mall, Mariah Carey not yet haunting the airwaves because thank God it was still 1989. But Mother Nature had other plans. A massive Arctic cold front drove south into the United States right before Christmas. Temperatures across the country plunged, and Florida was no exception. By the time the cold air reached Jacksonville, it collided with Gulf moisture and boom, snow. We're not talking about a few flakes that melted on contact. This was measurable snow. Depending on where you were in Jacksonville, you got between 2 and 4 inches. That might not sound much to people that are in Chicago or Buffalo, but in Florida, it's like a blizzard. We don't own snow shovels. We don't own snow boots. The only salt we keep around here is for tequila shots. On the morning of December 23rd, people woke up to find their lawns covered in white. Kids were outside making snow angels in shorts. Parents were standing in their driveways like, well, I guess I'm not going to do anything today because I don't know how to drive in this. And some of us, and I'm not naming names because cops and lawyers exist, took that little blue recycle bucket, marched it up to the overpass at Phillips Highway and University Boulevard, and sledded down it like it was Splash Mountain. Look, I'm not saying who did it, but let's just say one of us still can't drive past that overpass without a little PTSD from hitting a pothole at 40 miles an hour in a plastic bin. But that's the thing. Jacksonville was shut down. Roads were a mess. Bridges iced over. Nobody knew what to do because we didn't have plows or salt trucks. The city literally had zero equipment to handle it. So you had Florida drivers who already struggle in the rain trying to drive on ice. It was chaos. Schools, though, were already closed for Christmas break, but businesses shut down. Deliveries stopped. Flights out of JAX were grounded. People just stayed home, built tiny snowmen, kept running outside every 10 minutes and say, yep, it's still snowing, hoping everybody was finished with their Christmas shopping. There were even reports of folks pulling out surfboards and boogie boards to slide down the rare icy hills in town if you could find one. You know it's Florida when we repurpose beach gear for a snow day. Now, the snow was wild enough, but the real damage came from the freeze that followed. Temperatures dropped into the teens and stayed below freezing for hours. Pipes burst all over the city. Citrus groves in North and Central Florida were destroyed. Even the mighty St. Johns River had ice forming along the edges. It wasn't just Jacksonville either. Entire state felt it. Iguanas were literally falling out of trees in South Florida. The citrus industry lost millions. Palm trees in Central Florida turned brown overnight in that horrible hole of a place we call Orlando. For a state built on sunshine, it's kind of brutal. And back here in Jacksonville, the combination of snow and freeze made it feel like we had been transported to like Minnesota, minus the snow plows, insulated houses, or, any preparation whatsoever. People were using hair dryers to thaw pipes. Stores ran out of space heaters, and churches scrambled to open shelters for folks who didn't have heat. But for a lot of people, though, it was magical. Snow at Christmas. In Florida, it's like something out of a Hallmark movie, except instead of like the handsome dude in New York moving to like a small town, it's just like your Uncle Larry in flip-flops drinking a Miller High Life in the yard while throwing snowballs. Kids who had never seen snow in their lives suddenly had it in their front yard. Families took pictures that became treasured Christmas memories, and if you were a kid in Jacksonville in 1989 like I was, you probably still brag about the year Santa brought snow. But just like everything in Jacksonville, everybody was not so thrilled. Farmers lost crops, businesses lost money, and folks who had to travel, sorry, forget it. The airports were a nightmare. The highways were worse. If you were trying to drive down 95 on December 23rd, 1989, good luck. You'd have been better off with the frickin' dog sled. But the thing about Jacksonville and snow is that, put quite plainly, we just don't do it. The city has only seen snow a handful of times in recorded history. 1868, 1899, 1917, and 1989. That's it. 4 times in more than 150 years. And of those, 89 was by far the biggest. We were not ready for it. We weren't equipped for it. And we're still talking about it 3 decades later. Every winter, when the forecast dips into the 30s, you'll hear someone say, "Remember 1989? It snowed. It's become part of Jacksonville lore." In fact, meteorologists still use the 1989 snow as a reference point. Whenever a cold front approaches, the TV weather folks love to say, well, it won't be like 1989, but it will be chilly. A storm basically is like the gold standard for weird Jacksonville weather. And here's where the Florida ridiculousness comes in. Other states get snow every year, and they just deal with it. They clear the roads, they shovel the sidewalks, and they go to work. In Jacksonville, 2 inches of snow shut the city down harder than a Cat 3 hurricane does. You had people out there scraping their windshields with spatulas because they didn't own ice scrapers. You had folks trying to drive their Camaros on iced over San Jose Boulevard. The news was telling people not to eat the snow because, Florida, we're the state where someone would eat yellow snow and then sue somebody. And there's at least that one guy out there, again, not naming names, in cut-off shorts and a tank top saying, "This ain't cold!" Meanwhile, his pipes are exploding behind him like Old Faithful. So, that's it. That's the story of the great Jacksonville snowfall of December 23rd, 1989, the day Florida turned into a winter wonderland, whether we wanted it to or not. It was magical. It was chaotic, very destructive, and unforgettable. I'm talking about it. It happened when I was 14 years old, and I'm 50. For one day, Jacksonville looked like a Christmas card. For weeks later, dealt with the fallout. If you were here, you know how it was. But if you weren't, well, just remember, in Jacksonville, we do not handle snow. We barely handle rain. But we always have the bragging rights that, yes, it once really snowed here at Christmas, no less. Hey, I want you to continue listening to that Florida feeling. Thanks for hanging out with me for these episodes. My name is Keb Pound. I have a podcast called The Stupid History Minute, and I would like to remind you to wear your sunscreen, drink your water, and in Florida, if it sounds ridiculous, it's probably true. Have a good one.
This podcast is a production of Unfiltered Studios. If you would like to know more about joining Unfiltered Studios, please visit our website at unfpod.com for more information.